The morning of October 21, 2022 in Lima opened with the sudden emergence of a woman the entire nation had been desperately seeking for the previous 48 hours. Gabriella Sevilla appeared on the doorstep of a relative's residence. She was confused and by herself. Her body bore visible signs of hardship, including cuts and bruises. Yet another detail immediately drew attention. The stomach of this 30-year-old woman, which only 2 days earlier had clearly indicated she was 9 months pregnant, was now flat. Her daughter, Martina, whose arrival was expected at any moment, was missing. Paramedics quickly transported Gabriella to the Central Military Hospital, the same facility where her mother, Rita Terrell, had been employed for almost 40 years. The emergency room descended into chaos as doctors evaluated Gabriella's physical state. Police officers and rescue personnel concentrated on a single pressing question. Where was the newborn child? Gabriella could not clearly describe how she had arrived at her relative's home or what had occurred during the previous 30 hours. What had started as a nationwide search effort had now turned into a criminal investigation involving the disappearance of a newborn. And what followed would stun everyone. To understand how Gabriella Sevilla came to be standing on that doorstep after 2 days of uncertainty, it is necessary to turn back time. Wednesday, October 19, 2022, at approximately 7:30 p.m. Gabriella was alone inside her apartment. Her partner, Romero Galvez, the father of her unborn child, had been away since the previous day. At that point, Gabriella placed a series of urgent phone calls to her parents and to Romero. She reported suffering from strong contractions and stated that her water had broken. According to statements provided by her mother, Rita, Gabriella also said that she was bleeding. During the call, a friend urged Gabriella not to wait for anyone and to go directly to the hospital. Gabriella asked Romero and her parents to meet her at the clinic's emergency department where she said she had been receiving prenatal care throughout her pregnancy. She left her apartment and entered a taxi. While sitting in the back seat, Gabriella took a photograph of the interior and sent it to her mother. The image showed the rear of the front passenger seat, but the driver's face could not be seen. After that message, communication ceased. Gabriella's phone was switched off. Meanwhile, relatives gathered at the maternity ward. Romero and Rita waited at the entrance, but Gabriella never arrived. Not after 30 minutes, not after an hour. Hospital staff informed them that no patient with her name had been admitted that day. In fact, her name did not appear anywhere in the clinic's admission records. Efforts to find her at other hospitals throughout Lima produced no results. Around midnight, Romero and Gabriella's parents went to a police station. An officer took a report regarding her disappearance. The missing persons unit was notified because the circumstances were critical. A woman in the final stage of pregnancy had vanished, and so began a period of 30 hours of uncertainty, during which the Fate of Gabriella and her daughter. Martina became the central mystery, holding the nation's attention. In the early hours of October 20th, the disappearance of Gabriella Sevilla was no longer only a private matter for her family. By 2 a.m., news of a missing woman in the final weeks of pregnancy had spread across social media. Photographs of Gabriella along with details describing her appearance and the route she had taken were circulating widely within Lima's largest online communities. By 9 a.m., the story had reached front-page headlines and dominated broadcasts on Peruvian television. Media coverage and public focus centered on one critical detail. According to her family, Gabriella was believed to be in active labor. Her safe return was a matter of life and death. The Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry for Women's Affairs immediately joined forces to coordinate a response. Lima's police initiated Operation Interception, deploying additional patrols to inspect vehicles that matched the description provided in Gabriella's last communication. The Missing Persons Division classified the case as one of the highest priority. At the same time, the National Migration Agency heightened security at airports and border checkpoints. Officers were ordered to carefully examine the documents of all travelers accompanied by newborn infants, to eliminate the possibility of a baby being illegally transported out of the country. Government officials also began conducting systematic checks of maternity wards and private clinics throughout the capital region, operating under the assumption that Gabriella might have been admitted somewhere while unconscious. But it was as though she had disappeared without a trace. Her mother, Rita Terrell, made a public plea through the media. Despite lacking significant financial resources, the family announced a cash reward for any reliable information concerning Gabriella's location. By midday on October 20th, the Peruvian government was fully engaged. Investigators attempted to use geolocation technology to track Gabriella's phone, but the device had remained powered off since she sent the photograph from inside the taxi. The entire country watched as authorities released hourly updates, anxiously waiting for news about Gabriella and her daughter Martina, whose existence continued to be treated as an unquestioned fact by all official agencies. Gabriella Olga Victoria Sevilla Terrell was born in Lima in 1992. Her parents, Samuel Sevilla and Rita Terrell, lived a quiet and private life until the events of October 2022. Their family had never attracted media attention. Gabriella obtained a university degree in hospitality and tourism from an institution in Lima. Her academic training opened the door to a prosperous career in the hotel sector. At the time of the incident, she was working for one of the most luxurious and exclusive hotels in Peru's capital city. Her social media accounts presented the image of a woman deeply interested in adventure and new experiences. Her profiles were filled with images from her numerous travels and pictures that reflected her enthusiasm for extreme sports. In almost all of those photos, Gabriella was shown alongside a small, tightly bonded circle of friends whom she described as her lifesavers. To people around her, Gabriella appeared successful, socially active, and full of energy. However, beyond photographs and videos, Gabriella also left behind written content online. Occasionally, her posts contained short reflections about her emotional condition. In those messages, Sevilla openly referenced periods of increased anxiety. These digital indicators of her mental state would later draw the attention of specialists. Up until the end of 2021, Gabriella lived consistently in her parents' home, maintaining a strong relationship with both her mother and her father. Shifts in her established routine began in 2020, when a man entered her life who would later be identified as the father of her unborn daughter. That relationship set the stage for a sequence of events that 2 years later would call into question every known detail of her life story. The story of Gabriella Sevilla and Romero Galvez Ramirez started in 2020. Their relationship developed over roughly a year and a half, continuing until December 2021. On December 9, Romero chose to end the relationship and the couple formally separated. However, this time apart was brief. In February 2022, they re-established contact. The reason for their reunion was the revelation that Gabriella was expecting a daughter. Romero recognized paternity, and the couple agreed to begin again. By mid-2022, Sevilla and Galvez had started living together in the same apartment. To those around them, they seemed to be a stable couple preparing for the arrival of a new family member. In August 2022, they hosted an event commonly referred to in the United States as a baby shower. Closed family members and friends were invited to celebrate the anticipated birth. Photographs from that day show a room decorated with pink balloons and decorations displaying the name Martina. That was the name selected for the daughter expected in October. Rita and Samuel Sevilla actively participated in the celebration, fully convinced that their granddaughter would soon be born. In the months that followed, Gabriella exhibited all the visible signs of pregnancy to those close to her. According to later statements from friends within the group she called her lifesavers, Sevilla regularly shared information about her condition and spoke about visits to medical professionals. The apartment was completely reorganized in preparation for a newborn daughter. A nursery was arranged and all necessary items were purchased. All financial obligations, including medical costs and preparations for delivery, were paid for by Romero. He accompanied his partner to the entrance of the clinic during scheduled checkups. Gabriella shared ultrasound images and medical prescriptions with him. The anticipation surrounding Martina became the main focus of the entire family circle, establishing a foundation of complete trust in Gabriella's words right up until the events of October 19. At 9 a.m. on October 21, Gabriella Sevilla provided her first official statement to investigators. Her account described an abduction. She stated that the taxi driver she had entered 2 evenings earlier suddenly altered the route, claiming it would be a quicker way to the clinic. According to Sevilla, she lost consciousness inside the vehicle. She reported regaining awareness in an enclosed room where two men were present. One of them, dressed in white, forced her through the delivery process. In her statement, Gabriella said she did not hear the cry of the newborn daughter, and only managed to say the name Martina before losing consciousness once again. Gabriella Sevilla's account included disturbing claims of threats made by the alleged perpetrators. According to her, the man dressed in white warned her not to contact the authorities. He allegedly told her that if she ever spoke to the police, he would come after her family and after Romero. He also told her that she would receive her daughter's body at a later time. The next thing she remembered, as stated in her report, was waking up on a street in Villa Maria del Triunfo in pain and completely disoriented. Investigators moved quickly to verify her story, and that was when the first serious inconsistencies began to appear. The ride-share company Gabriella's mother had mentioned earlier released an official statement. There was no record of a ride requested under Gabriella's name or phone number on the night she disappeared. The photo Gabriella had sent from inside the vehicle, showing only the back of a seat, offered no identifying details of the driver or the car. Meanwhile, police received a report from the clinic where Gabriella had claimed to receive prenatal care throughout her pregnancy. The medical facility confirmed that Gabriella had indeed been a patient there, but not for maternity services. Her medical records showed no evidence of prenatal monitoring, laboratory testing, or visits to an obstetrician, gynecologist. The files indicated that her medical consultations had been for conditions unrelated to pregnancy. This marked the first significant fracture in what had up to that point been handled as a high-profile abduction case. By the afternoon of October 21, the investigation took a dramatic shift. The Institute of Forensic Medicine finalized its analysis of Gabriella Sevilla's blood samples. One crucial detail emerged clearly in the report: the total absence of human chorionic gonadotropin or HCG in her system. This hormone remains detectable in blood and urine for several weeks following childbirth. In Gabriella's case, it was virtually absent. Based on these results, the Peruvian Minister of the Interior issued an official statement to national media outlets. Gabriella Sevilla had never been pregnant. The nationwide search for baby Martina was immediately suspended. Shortly afterward, Peru's judicial branch released a public notice citing Article 144 of the National Penal Code. Under this law, simulating a pregnancy in order to claim rights over a non-existent child is classified as a criminal offense. The crime carries a penalty ranging from 1 to 5 years of imprisonment. The statute also eases sanctions for medical professionals who may have aided in falsifying diagnosis, if proven. Despite the laboratory confirmed evidence, Gabriella Sevilla held a press conference outside her residence. She publicly rejected the government's conclusion. She claimed to possess recordings of a fetal heartbeat from 5 separate medical checkups as well as printed ultrasound images. During a live broadcast, Gabriella stated that doctors at the military hospital had conducted only a superficial examination and had neither collected urine samples nor performed toxicology testing. She argued that officials had reached conclusions hastily without carrying out a comprehensive assessment of her reproductive health. However, when investigators offered her the opportunity to return to a clinic for independent supervised testing under the oversight of the prosecutor's office, Gabriella refused. Her assertions now stood in direct opposition to the official laboratory findings, which conclusively ruled out any recent childbirth. After the Minister of the Interior's official declaration stating that no pregnancy had ever existed, the Sevilla family publicly rejected that determination. Rita Terrell and Samuel Sevilla told reporters that the experts' conclusions were incorrect. According to the parents, they had observed their daughter's physical condition over a period of 9 months. Samuel Sevilla stated that he personally witnessed Gabriella's abdomen grow and closely followed the preparations for the delivery. The parents insisted that Martina did exist and that the pregnancy had been confirmed not only through their own observations, but also through medical documents Gabriella had shared within the family circle. Gabriella's closest friends also came forward to defend her. One close friend, who had been selected as Martina's godmother, gave multiple interviews to television stations. She confirmed that she had remained by Gabriella's side throughout the entire period of anticipation and said she had no reason to doubt its authenticity. According to her account, she personally saw ultrasound results and participated in setting up the nursery. She described Gabriella's condition after returning from the hospital as deeply distressed, attributing it to the aftermath of the alleged abduction and the authorities' official disbelief. Statements from those closest to Gabriella produced a phenomenon of collective certainty. Several individuals, including attendees of the August baby shower, unanimously claimed they had seen direct proof of a full 9-month pregnancy. They described changes in Gabriella's gait, her complaints about how she felt, and outward signs consistent with fetal development. These testimonies created a major contradiction within Peru's public discourse. Eyewitness accounts describing visible physical changes directly conflicted with the findings of laboratory blood tests. While prosecutors relied on biological evidence, family and friends continued to insist on the reality of Martina, whom only they were now searching for. As public discussion centered on the medical conclusions, Romero Galvez provided investigators with the results of his own private investigation, one he had initiated even before his partner disappeared. His doubts had surfaced several weeks prior to October 19. The primary trigger was the expected due date. On one ultrasound image Gabriella had shown him, the projected delivery date was listed as August 28. By mid-October, nearly 2 months had passed. Yet, Gabriella had not sought medical care and displayed no signs associated with an overdue pregnancy. Galvez independently reviewed the prescriptions and medical certificates Gabriella brought home. He contacted one of the specialists whose name appeared on the documents. The physician formally declared that he had never evaluated Kvia and had not produced any medical documentation. The signature appearing on the paperwork was falsified and the listed professional license number did not correspond to that doctor's identity. Romero additionally sought opinions from 5 other independent gynecologists. None of them supported the notion that a pregnancy could be carried to full term without consistent medical monitoring or hospitalization, particularly when the due date had been exceeded by such an extent. Within the apartment, Gabriella had put in place a series of physical restrictions. During the final weeks, she prohibited her partner from touching her stomach. The pair no longer slept in the same bed. Romero would escort Sevilla to the entrance of the clinic, but he was never present during the consultations themselves. On every occasion, Gabriella went in alone, attributing this to strict institutional policies. According to Galves, his initial doubts centered solely on his biological paternity. But after discovering the forged paperwork, he became convinced that there had never been a pregnancy in the first place. 1 day prior to her disappearance, Gabriella Sevilla was confronted directly. Romero had notified her parents about the inconsistencies he had uncovered. However, Rita Terrell, Gabriella's mother, promptly passed the substance of that discussion back to her daughter. That evening, the couple engaged in a strained interaction during which Gabriella allegedly broke down crying, but offered no factual explanation to refute the allegations. The following night, she left the residence claiming that labor had begun. After Gabriella returned from the hospital on October 21, Rita collected the apartment keys from Romero, the home the couple had shared. This action prompted Romero to file a police report, suggesting that Gabriella's mother could be involved in withholding crucial information to reconstruct what occurred during the 30 hours Gabriella was missing. Investigators analyzed transportation records, medical examination results, and surveillance footage throughout the city. The timeline reconstruction started at 7:30 p.m. on October 19, 2022. Gabriella departed her apartment alone. Despite asserting that her water had broken and that bleeding had started, she carried no hospital bag, no infant supplies, and no medical paperwork. She entered a vehicle she stopped directly from the street, rendering her route untraceable by the GPS systems used by official ride share services. The photograph of the car's interior sent to her mother minutes before her phone was shut off marked what investigators believe was the start of a deliberately constructed alibi. According to their conclusions, Gabriella intentionally turned off her phone to prevent tracking. Over the following day and a half, she did not present herself at any medical facility in Lima. Surveillance recordings from the area where she alleged the abduction took place showed no evidence of a struggle, no chase, and no forced halt of any vehicle. From Wednesday evening until Friday morning, Gabriella remained at an undisclosed location, one that has never been identified to this day. The physical injuries documented on Gabriella, including scratches and Bruises observed by physicians on October 21 were later examined by forensic specialists. Their assessment indicated that the injuries were consistent with a staged confrontation. The distribution of abrasions suggested they may have been self-inflicted in an effort to support her account of being held against her will. Her refusal to submit to a complete toxicology test after returning from the alleged abduction left investigators unable to substantiate her claims of being drugged with controlled substances. According to the case records, the primary motive behind Gabriella's disappearance was that her fabricated pregnancy had reached its alleged 9-month term. By October 19, she could no longer sustain the visual deception, particularly after being confronted by Romero, who had uncovered the falsified medical documents, disappearing and then fabricating a narrative about a stolen daughter became the sole means of explaining the absence of a baby who, as it was later determined, had never existed. The reconstruction concludes with Gabriella arriving on foot at a relative's residence at dawn on October 21 after first discarding any padding or props used to simulate a pregnant abdomen. 9 months after the incident on July 6, 2023, the National Police of Peru submitted their conclusions to the prosecutor's office. Based on that submission, prosecutors launched a formal criminal investigation. Gabriella Sevilla was charged with 3 criminal offenses: making false statements, document forgery, and the use of knowingly falsified private documentation. The claimant in the case was Ramiro Galvez, who by that time had completely cut off all connections with Gabriella. The prosecution's formal indictment against Gabriella Sevilla described 2 distinct forms of harm suffered by Ramiro Galvez. The first was financial in nature. From February through October 2022, Romero paid all costs associated with Gabriella's fabricated condition. He covered medical expenses and purchased furniture and clothing for a daughter who in reality never existed. The second form of harm was deeply personal: the emotional damage resulting from the public revelation of deception and the collapse of everything he had believed in and prepared for. On July 14, 2023, Gabriella's name appeared once again in official records, this time signaling the start of formal criminal proceedings. The Ministry of Public Administration requested 120 days to complete all investigative actions before the case could be transferred to the courts. During this period, Gabriella's defense began citing her need for psychological treatment, introducing a new phase in the legal confrontation. But the story of Gabriella Sevilla soon extended beyond legal filings and courtroom sessions. Within the medical community, it triggered public debate surrounding the condition known as pseudocyesis, a psychological phenomenon in which a woman believes she is pregnant and the body begins to display symptoms such as abdominal enlargement, missed menstrual periods, and nausea. Despite the increasing discussion, authorities never confirmed any psychiatric diagnosis in Gabriella's case. Notably, throughout the entire investigation, Gabriella never submitted a formal police report claiming that Martina had gone missing. Before long, Gabriella severed all contact with the outside world. The social media profiles where she had previously shared images from her travels and extreme sports activities were deactivated. She stopped granting interviews. She stopped appearing publicly. Her attorney released a single statement. Gabriella was receiving psychological care. A story that had once mobilized an entire nation ended quietly in an empty nursery. The case of Gabriella Sevilla now remains in Lima's criminal archives as a troubling example of large-scale public deception. Many continue to ask the same questions. What was the verdict? What sentence did she receive? But those expecting swift justice may be left dissatisfied. As of 2025, no final judgment has been issued. The Peruvian legal system moves slowly. The investigation that began in July 2023 has continued for years. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.